Anyway, speaking of that Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, he is now facing calls to essentially give MPs a vote on whether or not we should conduct any more strikes against the Houthis over in the Red Sea. Let me just play a clip of him justifying these strikes.
Over the last month, we've seen a significant increase in the number of Houthi attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea. That's putting innocent lives at risk. It's disrupting the global economy, and it's also destabilising the region. And in that time, we've also seen the single biggest attack on a Navy warship, a British Navy warship, that we've seen in decades. And it's why I made the decision with allies to take what I believe to be necessary, proportionate and targeted action against military targets to degrade and disrupt Houthi capability. We won't hesitate to protect lives and ensure the safety of commercial shipping.
One of my viewers, John, says, of course it doesn't need a vote. They're attacking UK ships in international waters. This is piracy, terrorism and much worse, says John. These guys want wiping out by anyone who's got the guts to do so. Peter Hitchens, where are you on this?
Well, the Saudis tried for 8 years to use that phrase, wipe them out, and didn't merely just totally fail to wipe them out, but they grew stronger during that period. They've been bombed and attacked and pounded for year upon year upon year, and they're stronger. And when this first began, and I said, actually, I don't think this is a good idea, people said, but we have to do something. Well, partly this is something must be done syndrome, where a problem arises and somebody says, this is what we should do. So people say, right, that's something, we'll do that. And no one thinks, well, will it work? But what I thought at the time, and people who knew the area assured me of this, was it was very unlikely to work, and therefore to justify it on the basis that it was a response, we had to do something, wasn't very clever. If you're going to do something about it, then you should do something that will make it work. The second thing is, are we vastly overrating this? The British ship, which was recently struck, was very lightly damaged. A lot of us will remember, a couple of years ago when a ship ran aground in the Suez Canal, and we were told that world trade would effectively stop. It didn't. We overestimate the power of the Houthis to block international trade as well. The response seemed to me to be both idiotic, because the outcome was likely to be that it didn't achieve what it was supposed to achieve, and the reason for it seemed to me to be weak. And this ought to have been debated in the House of Commons. Now, if somebody comes along and threatens this country to attack this country or attacks this country, then you don't call the House of Commons and ask them whether you can defend the country. You defend the country straight away. But in areas like this, where it's a very long distance away and where the outcome of what we're doing needs to be thought about carefully, there's absolutely no harm done in calling the House of Commons. Ever since the Iraq War, there's been a great feeling in this country that we need to be asked before committing ourselves to wars, because politicians have a habit of committing this country to stupid wars. I mean, David Cameron, who's now Foreign Secretary for reasons which escape me, is responsible for the stupidest war in modern British history in Libya. And that should be a guide to the rest of us as to how very much we need to question these decisions when they're put before us.
Aaron?
Good old Lord Cameron and Libya in 2015. Couldn't agree more, Peter. Look, the whole do something thing, we must do something. Apparently in 2003, Saddam Hussein's awful. We must do something. Well, Saddam Hussein was a bad guy. Guess what? ISIS were worse. So you can always get worse. This is a lesson I've learned as I've got older. I think it's generally applicable with people as they get older. Don't presume that things can't get worse. They can get worse. And we can make the situation worse by doing what we're doing. I think it's instructive that the Saudis, the Qataris, the UAE aren't involved in this, because they probably understand that the Houthis are a scorpion with a sting in their tail. What that means for the Saudis, for the UAE, for the Qataris is far more than us, because, of course, their drones, their medium-range missiles can hit them, whereas we're relatively safe. We're thousands of miles away, of course. I agree with what Peter's saying as well with regards to a vote. If it's immediate national security, of course you don't need a vote. But this is literally the other side of the planet. I think you have to have a vote. Just have a sensible, informed debate. And then finally, is this going to help? Is this going to make the situation better for us? Does this serve our national interest? I don't see how it does. And I think we have to have the debate in Parliament, precisely because we may now have a government embarking on a set of decisions which actually make the situation less safe for our sailors and our ships, not more safe. And so I disagree with your, I'm sure, very learned viewer, I think we absolutely should put this to Parliament.
I mean, I've got to say, it's viewers plural. Peter says the defence of our nation and shipping routes from which we all benefit absolutely must be protected. It should not be reliant on a vote. Steve says this voting in Parliament about whether or not we protect ships is ridiculous. If we are attacked, we retaliate. This is a no-brainer.
Well, it is actually very much a brainer, because what your correspondent is not noticing is that the action is wholly ineffective. So it's all very well saying we must act, but if when you act you do absolutely no good at all and show yourself out to be powerless, then that's worse than you were before.
The
other thing is, we're not. What is this? The aeroplanes which we send at vast expense from Cyprus to bomb targets in the Yemen could not reach their targets or be guided to their targets or effectively drop their weapons without the support of the American fleet, which is nearby. They couldn't do it. We haven't actually got a capacity of our own. We're simply acting yet again as the fifth wheel in an American cart. Our purpose there is not military. It's simply to give the Americans some cover so that it doesn't look as if the Americans are acting on their own when they are.